In this final set of films, I want to try and sum up what we've established regarding how focal dystonia develops in the sufferer and how it can be overcome and where this leaves us regarding prevention of the condition in the future. So we've seen that focal dystonia is caused by tension arising from negative emotions, creating involuntary muscle spasms. And these negative emotions come from trying not to do it wrong rather than trying to do it right. Now this is Jim with another of Wacking's wonderful analogies.
Wacking has a great way of putting it, which is not the most politically correct way of saying it, but he says, imagine you're standing in front of a beautiful woman and an ugly woman. He said, now if you pay all the attention to how ugly that ugly woman is, and all your focus is on how ugly that woman is, the beautiful woman will eventually disappear. And it's exactly the same with the trombone. If you're concentrating so much on things that are wrong, then the things that are right, if you're not paying any attention to them, they'll disappear.
Ugly women. I wonder if Wacking's been to Great Yarmouth. Now, just to give you an idea of what this might be like, you might want to try this little test. Now, try saying, either out loud or to yourself, for about 30 seconds, the following phrase. I'm going to get the note. I'm going to get the note. Over and over. And then see how you feel at the end. Right, now try saying, not going to miss the note. Not going to miss the note. The same way. Now, if you like, you can just pause the film while you do this. And let's see how you feel at the end of this second statement. Now, I've tried this with a few people, and they fed back that after they said the second statement, the negative one, they did start to feel tension in the head. Now, maybe nothing happened, but it's interesting to see what you experienced. The chances are that we all probably experienced something different when doing this, and it just leads me to think for a moment about the fact that, and it's musicians we're talking about at the moment, although symptoms of focal dystonia are similar, the level of intensity may well vary from person to person, and I wonder if we may look at levels of dystonia as on a spectrum, where at the top we have experiences of things like performance nerves, the sort of thing that many of us go through in a performance. Well, because they do have similar symptoms to dystonia. And then at the other end of the scale, if you like, we have a more full-blown dystonia with symptoms similar to those described in these films. Now, with this in mind, the other day I went back and listened again to that focal dystonia programme I put together in 2007. And I listened to Andy Berryman talking about ways that he could diminish the effects of dystonia by playing whilst leaning against a wall or doing something not really related to good technique, as it were. And then there was Bob Hughes, who picked up that French horn and played three octaves on it, just like that. And I wondered why this may be. And I came up with the conclusion that for both of them, because they were doing something different, very different in the way they were playing, or picking up a strange instrument, it's almost like they were saying to themselves, well, I know this is different and I can't expect it to work properly, so I'll give myself permission to fail. And so the system begins to work again. With everything we've seen in these films, it's hard to see the causes of focal dystonia as being neurological, given that Wacking has been able to treat sufferers by making them aware of their negative emotions. But how was such an emphasis on it being neurological established in the first? Now, I think in general, musicians have a tendency to overemphasise the technical aspect of their playing, so that when anything goes wrong, we tend to look to treat the musician rather than the person, to look, as it were, towards the technical or physical aspects of the body for the cause. The attraction looking at focal dystonia from a neurological point of view is that neurology tends to look at the nuts and bolts, as it were, the biological interaction between the brain, its neurotransmitters and the muscles, and I think it does a good job of informing us exactly just what is going on. But the trouble has been, although looking at focal dystonia from this neurological standpoint has shown us the effects, it doesn't point to the original cause. It doesn't answer the question of why is this happening. And therefore, just by looking at focal dystonia in this way, we find ourselves running up a blind alley. But as ever, You know, there's always another way of looking at a problem. If you like, there's always another way of skinning a cat. And this wouldn't be the first time that a seemingly complex or insurmountable problem has been resolved by a bit of common sense. Now, we have to take on board the fact that the mind and body are inextricably linked. Linguistic programmers describe the body as a cybernetic system where mind and body affect each other. The mind affects the body, and vice versa. Emotions have been described as neurochemical events that are created by thoughts that we're having at a given moment. Now, a neurochemical event is the interaction of neurochemicals with the nerves in your brain and body. Now, we know that you can alter your neurochemistry with drugs, for example, and thereby alter your thoughts. But also your thoughts can alter your neurochemistry. In other words, thought patterns cause changes in internal chemistry, which creates physical sensations or feelings. Now, it has been proved that psychotherapy does promote a change in the chemistry of the brain to promote a change in thinking and feeling. Now, remember what Joaquin said, that emotions are the vehicle of thoughts that in turn will create a particular physical feeling or sensation. So let's look at an analogy of this. Now, imagine you're looking at a taxi rank. Now, my dad was a London cab driver, and you'll see why I mention this in a minute. Oh, and by the way, don't get us on to Spanish taxi drivers. So when we went to Spain, got into this cab at the airport, and this geezer took us all the way round the houses for what should have been a 10-minute journey. Costa Brava, cost a bleating fortune. Anyway, I digress. A person comes up to the rank, and the person is the thought. It may be an experience-based thought, and he goes for a cab, which is the emotion. Now, he's actually got the choice of many cabs, just as we have a choice of emotions, but tends to go for the one which is the culmination of experiences based on that thought from the past. In other words, when someone says something, or I experience something, it means this. This is the consequence, this is what it means, and this is what I do. So if it's a negative emotion, he'll get into this filthy cab with the driver moaning on and on about what you should have done, ought not to have done, just like my dad, and takes you all round the houses, just like that Spanish cab driver, and you end up in a real run-down, depressive situation. There's tension, fights, and just utter despair. A bit like Peckham. Now, I said there was a choice, so that person or thought could get into a nice or positive cab, where the driver compliments you on everything. He's efficient, he shows you all the wonderful sights of the city and takes you to a lovely destination. And the whole journey has been a positive experience. And you end up in a much nicer place like South Kensington or Cockfosters. Actually, I've never been to Cockfosters, but I'm certain it's nicer than Peckham. So the point that I want to make about this is the startling fact that you have to take responsibility for your dystonia. In a bizarre way, you chose to have dystonia, although it was an unconscious choice because you didn't realise that you had a choice. The fact remains. But so you chose to have it, you can also choose not to have it by changing the way that you emotionally feel about yourself. And in the next film, we'll be carrying on looking at where negative emotions come from.